Dr. Elena Kozlov adjusted her wire-rimmed glasses and took her seat in the witness box, her hands folded calmly in her lap. The federal courthouse in Manhattan buzzed with anticipation as the biggest corporate espionage trial of the decade was about to reach its climax. Across the room, the executives of Nexus Technologies sat behind a wall of expensive attorneys, their confidence evident despite facing charges that could destroy their billion-dollar empire. Elena appeared unremarkable, a middle-aged woman with graying blonde hair pulled into a simple bun, wearing a modest gray dress and minimal jewelry. Her accent carried hints of Eastern Europe, softened by decades in America. To most observers, she was just another expert witness, a linguistics professor brought in to analyze intercepted communications between Nexus and their alleged Chinese partners. Judge Patricia Kellerman called the court to order, her stern expression reflecting the gravity of the case. For 6 months, prosecutors had built their argument that Nexus had sold cutting-edge artificial intelligence technology to foreign competitors, potentially compromising national security. The defense maintained their innocence, claiming the intercepted conversations were misunderstood due to translation errors. Dr. Kozlov, began Prosecutor James Mitchell, rising from his table with confidence born of months of preparation. Please state your qualifications for the court. Elena's voice was steady, professional. I hold a doctorate in computational linguistics from MIT, with specializations in Slavic languages and cryptographic analysis. I've served as a translator and consultant for various government agencies for the past 22 years. The defense attorney, Margaret Sterling, immediately stood. Your Honor, we object to the witness's characterization of her government work. Without proper clearance verification, such testimony could be prejudicial. Judge Kellerman nodded. Sustained. Dr. Kozlov, please limit your qualifications to publicly verifiable credentials. For the next hour, Elena methodically dissected the intercepted communications. Her analysis was thorough, clinical, devastating. She demonstrated how seemingly innocent conversations about agricultural equipment were actually coded discussions about AI algorithms, how references to fertilizer shipments corresponded with data transfers worth hundreds of millions. The Nexus executives shifted uncomfortably as Elena played translated audio recordings, her voice providing simultaneous interpretation that revealed their guilt beyond reasonable doubt. CEO Jonathan Reeves whispered urgently to his attorney, beads of sweat forming on his forehead despite the courtroom's air conditioning. Dr. Kozlov. Sterling rose for cross-examination, her tone sharp with skepticism. Isn't it true that linguistic interpretation can be highly subjective, that cultural context can completely alter meaning? To some extent, yes, Elena acknowledged. However, when technical terminology is used consistently across multiple conversations, and when those conversations correlate with documented financial transactions, the interpretation becomes quite clear. Sterling pressed harder. But you're asking this jury to convict American citizens based entirely on your personal interpretation of foreign language conversations. How can they verify your translation accuracy? Elena remained composed. The court-appointed interpreter has verified my translations. Additionally, I've provided detailed etymological analysis for each disputed phrase. Dr. Kozlov, have you ever made translation errors in your career? A pause. Yes. Translation is an art as much as a science. Errors that affected legal proceedings? Another pause. Longer this time. Yes. Sterling sensed weakness. Please describe one such error. Elena's composure flickered almost imperceptibly. In 2019, I mistranslated a phrase during a deportation hearing. My error resulted in a family being separated unnecessarily. And were there consequences for this error? The deportation was eventually reversed. The family was reunited. Sterling nodded, building toward her point. Dr. Kozlov, given your admitted history of consequential errors, how can this court trust your interpretation of such complex technical discussions? Elena straightened in her chair. Because I learned from my mistakes. Because I've spent years perfecting my methodology. And because the evidence in this case extends far beyond language interpretation. What evidence? Elena hesitated, glancing toward the prosecution table. Mitchell nodded almost imperceptibly. I didn't just translate these communications, Miss Sterling. I helped intercept them. The courtroom erupted. Judge Kellerman gavelled for order while Sterling objected strenuously. Your Honor, this witness has just admitted to potentially illegal surveillance activities. Objection sustained. The jury will disregard. Your Honor, Elena interrupted, her voice cutting through the chaos with sudden authority. With respect, that instruction may compromise national security protocols that are currently active. The courtroom fell silent. Judge Kellerman's eyes narrowed. Dr. Kozlov, I need you to be very careful about your next words. Elena reached into her purse and withdrew a sealed envelope. Your Honor, I request permission to approach the bench. Sterling was on her feet again. This is highly irregular. We demand to know what evidence is being presented. Judge Kellerman studied Elena for a long moment, then nodded. Approach. At the bench, Elena handed over the envelope. Judge Kellerman opened it, read briefly, then looked up with visible shock. Ladies and gentlemen, court will recess for 1 hour. All parties will remain in the building. As the courtroom cleared, Elena remained seated, ignoring the whispered conversations and pointed stares. She checked her phone discreetly. 3 missed calls from a number she recognized, a number that wasn't supposed to exist anymore. In Judge Kellerman's chambers, the atmosphere was tense. Present were the judge, both legal teams, and 2 men in dark suits who had appeared without introduction. Dr. Kozlov, Judge Kellerman began, the document you provided indicates you hold security clearances that are, she paused, considerably higher than those typically associated with academic linguistics work. That's correct, Your Honor. One of the suited men stepped forward. Agent Martinez, FBI Counterintelligence. Judge, we need to discuss moving this proceeding to a secure facility. Sterling's voice rose. Absolutely not. My clients have the right to a public trial. This is exactly the kind of government overreach. Miss Sterling, Elena interrupted calmly. Your clients sold quantum encryption algorithms to foreign intelligence services. The reason you're even having a public trial is because we've been tracking their activities for 3 years. The room went dead quiet. Dr. Kozlov, Agent Martinez said carefully, you're not authorized to... Agent Martinez, Elena's voice carried new weight, new authority. With respect, you need to check your clearance level before you tell me what I'm authorized to do. She turned to Judge Kellerman. Your Honor, I am Dr. Elena Kozlov, Professor of Linguistics at Columbia University. I am also Senior Analyst Elena Kozlov, National Security Agency, Cryptographic Analysis Division. And I am Operation Codename Nightingale, embedded asset within the academic community for the past 8 years. The revelation hit like a thunderbolt. Sterling sat down heavily, her face pale. The Nexus executives were staring at Elena with dawning horror as they realized the implications. Agent Martinez spoke into his earpiece, then approached the judge. Your Honor, we need to move this proceeding immediately. This courtroom is not secure for the level of classification we're now dealing with. How high? Judge Kellerman asked. Martinez whispered something in her ear. The judge's eyebrows rose dramatically. Court will adjourn until tomorrow morning. All proceedings will move to the Federal Secure Facility in Lower Manhattan. Only cleared personnel will be permitted. She looked directly at Elena. Dr. Kozlov, you will remain in federal protection until this matter is resolved. That evening, in a safe house in Brooklyn, Elena sat across from Agent Martinez and his partner, Agent Sarah Chen. For the first time in hours, she looked tired. How long? Martinez asked. Since 2016. We suspected Nexus was compromising AI research, but we needed someone inside the academic community with access to their technical discussions. The university position was cover? No, the university position was real. I am actually a linguistics professor. The NSA work was additional duty. Chen leaned forward. Why break cover now? We could have built the case differently. Elena was quiet for a moment. Because they weren't just selling technology. They were selling the names and locations of assets, like me. 3 operations have been compromised in the past 6 months. 2 agents are dead. Jesus, Martinez breathed. Why didn't you report this through channels? I did. My handler was one of the 2 who died. The room fell silent as the implications sunk in. Who else knows about your real identity? Chen asked. My immediate supervisor at NSA, who authorized tonight's revelation, and now you and everyone in that courtroom. Martinez shook his head. Your career as an embedded asset is over. I know. Elena's voice was calm, resigned. But the alternative was watching more operations burn while Nexus counted their profits. The next morning, the secure federal facility was a stark contrast to the Grand Manhattan courthouse. No press, no spectators, just essential personnel in a windowless room designed to prevent any form of surveillance. Judge Kellerman entered wearing civilian clothes rather than robes. Even judicial traditions bent to security requirements. This proceeding is classified at the top secret level. All participants have been cleared. Dr. Kozlov, please continue your testimony. Elena took the witness stand again, but now everything was different. Her posture was straighter, her voice carried more authority, and the academic facade was completely gone. For the past 3 years, I have been monitoring Nexus Technologies' communications as part of Operation Nightingale, a joint NSA-FBI investigation into technology transfer to hostile foreign governments. She produced a tablet displaying encrypted communications. These are not just business discussions about agricultural equipment. They are detailed negotiations for the sale of quantum computing algorithms that took American researchers 15 years to develop. The evidence she presented was overwhelming. Not just translations, but metadata analysis, financial correlations, and intercepts that showed Nexus had sold technology worth billions while simultaneously providing intelligence about American cyber capabilities. Dr. Kozlov, Prosecutor Mitchell asked, how certain are you that these communications represent intentional espionage rather than inadvertent disclosure? Elena touched the tablet screen, bringing up a conversation from 6 months earlier. This is Jonathan Reeves, Nexus CEO, discussing specific NSA personnel by name and operational designation. Information that could only have come from deliberate intelligence gathering. The defense table was in chaos. Sterling was frantically conferring with her clients, who were now realizing the true scope of the evidence against them. Your Honor, Sterling finally stood. Given this new information, we need time to review. Ms. Sterling, Judge Kellerman interrupted. Given the classified nature of this evidence, your review will necessarily be limited. Do you wish to continue with cross-examination? Sterling looked at her clients, then back at Elena. Dr. Kozlov, how do we know you haven't fabricated this evidence? How do we verify intelligence that we're not cleared to see? Elena's response was calm, devastating. Because, Ms. Sterling, 3 months ago your clients attempted to sell my real identity to Chinese intelligence. They have recordings of me speaking to my NSA handler. They know exactly who I am and what I do. The courtroom erupted again, but this time with genuine shock rather than theatrical objection. The Nexus executives were no longer looking confident. They were looking trapped. Agent Martinez approached the bench and whispered urgently to Judge Kellerman, who nodded grimly. The court has been informed that there are immediate national security implications to this testimony. We will recess while the government determines how to proceed. During the recess, Elena found herself alone in a secure conference room. She thought about her life as Dr. Elena Kozlov, linguistics professor, the students she'd taught, the colleagues who thought they knew her, the academic papers she'd published, while simultaneously running intelligence operations. All of it was over now. Her phone buzzed with a text from an unknown number. The university knows. Suggest you not return to campus. When court reconvened, Judge Kellerman looked grim. After consultation with the appropriate authorities, this court will accept plea agreements from all defendants. Dr. Kozlov's identity and testimony will remain classified, but the evidence she provided will be used to ensure appropriate sentencing. Over the next hour, the Nexus executives pled guilty to espionage, technology transfer, and conspiracy charges. CEO Reeves received 25 years. His associates received terms ranging from 15 to 20 years. As the proceedings concluded, Elena was approached by Agent Chen. What now? Now I disappear, Elena replied simply. New identity, new life, new mission somewhere else. Any regrets? Elena considered the question. I spent 8 years building a life I knew was temporary, forming relationships I knew I'd have to abandon. But those algorithms they sold? They could have compromised every secure communication in the government. Sometimes the mission has to come first. 6 months later, Dr. Maria Volkov began her position as Professor of Computational Linguistics at UC Berkeley. Her credentials were impeccable, her references stellar, and her accent suggested a background in Eastern Europe. Her students found her demanding but fair. Her colleagues respected her expertise. None of them suspected that Professor Volkov had previously been Dr. Elena Kozlov, or that her real specialty wasn't just translating languages, but breaking the codes that nations use to hide their secrets. In a secure facility in Washington, a commendation was quietly added to a classified file. Operation Nightingale. Successful conclusion. Asset demonstrated exceptional courage in compromising cover to prevent ongoing national security breaches. Recommended for Presidential Intelligence Medal. The medal would never be presented publicly. The citation would never be acknowledged. But in the shadow world where Elena had spent her career, it represented the highest possible recognition for someone who had sacrificed everything to protect secrets that most people would never know existed. And in Berkeley, Professor Volkov continued her work, always listening, always watching, always ready for the moment when her country might need her to disappear into another identity and take on another impossible mission that only she could complete.